Hello everyone, my name is Patrick. A few months ago, I found out a few things about my girlfriend's past, which made me freak out at first. But when I made up my mind that I could live with it and propose to her, she turned me down. See, more than a year ago, I experienced something that, in the movie industry, is called a meet cute. That day got off to a terrible start. I had an extremely important job interview, but in the morning, I slept through my alarm clock. While I was getting dressed up in a hurry, I discovered that I didn't have any clean pairs of socks, so I decided not to wear any. But I regretted that decision just as soon as I walked out on the street, took a few steps, and developed calluses on both feet. And so, limping and wincing in pain, I suddenly ran into a girl who was holding a bunch of tubes with paint. My white shirt, as well as my jacket, were both ruined. I lost my patience at that point and just yelled at her for painting a stupid picture in the middle of a crowded sidewalk. That's what she was doing back then. She started apologizing, but I was in a rush and I had no time for niceties, so I just said a few really rude words to her and ran to my interview. Despite the way I looked, I got the job, which made me feel happy and inspired. And when I walked out of that building, I saw that girl again, still painting her picture. I felt embarrassed for the way I had behaved earlier, so I went up to her and apologized. Only then did I notice that she was very beautiful. We exchanged numbers because she kept insisting on making amends to me for the dirty clothes. And in the evening, we met again near the dry cleaners. Then I asked her to have dinner with me, and she agreed. And, well, after a few more dates, we ended up spending a night at my apartment. And after a few more months, she moved in with me. You know, even though for Erica and I that meeting wasn't really the love at first sight, I fell for her really fast. There was only one flaw, so to speak. She refused to talk about her past. Even though we were living together, all I knew about her was that she was born in a tiny town, and right after school, she worked for a little while in a local jewelry store. And when she had enough money, she moved to the city to make her dream of being an artist come true. And after a couple of years, she met me. Well, even though I didn't understand why she didn't socialize with any of her relatives, I respected her privacy and eventually stopped asking any questions about her past. After a year of living together, I started thinking a lot about our future together. And it just so happened that my employer sent me on a business trip to that very town where Erica was born. Immediately, I thought it was some kind of sign. So I decided not to tell her where I was actually going. There I found that jewelry store and walked in to pick out the nicest engagement ring for my love. Yep, I was that much of a romantic, and I thought it would be nice to tell our future children the story about how I specifically went to the store where their mother used to work to get her engagement ring. But when I entered that store, I understood that it was impossible to choose one single ring because there were plenty of them. After approximately 10 minutes, I was already overwhelmed with picking just one single ring, so a saleswoman approached me and kindly offered her help. We had a small chat, and I decided to show her Erica's photo. I thought that it could help me pick out the perfect ring. I even assumed that the lady might have known Erica, and when I pulled out my cell phone and showed her a picture, she totally recognized her. But what surprised me a lot was that she called her by another name, Angela. She started asking how she was doing and so on, and when I tried to explain that she was wrong, she looked at me as if I were an idiot. At first, I decided that lady was confused or something. Or maybe my Erica simply resembled the girl she was talking about. But then she mentioned that girl had a cute speech impediment, and that information made me feel tense. Erica did speak with a slight lisp. Anyway, I didn't buy anything that day. I started thinking about Erica's unwillingness to talk about her past and those strange things that the lady from the store told me about. And I made up my mind to figure out everything before popping the question. When I arrived home and came into the apartment, Erica was painting another picture. She was sitting with her back to me and I didn't see her face. But when I said that my trip was to her hometown, I had this sneaking suspicion that she got a bit nervous. I didn't want her to know that I wanted to buy her a ring there, so I just lied, saying that I'd grabbed a cup of coffee at the coffee shop that was situated right next to her first workplace. Suddenly, she awkwardly moved with the brush in her hand, so that it made a huge and ugly brush mark all over the canvas and ruined the picture. She began to try to remove it, silently cursing herself, and this reaction of hers made me completely believe that the lady from the jewelry store wasn't mistaken. This really bugged me. But at the same time, I couldn't ask her just like that, because she could, once again, simply fudge an issue. That's why the next week I lied to Erica, saying that I had to visit my parents and stay at their place overnight. But in reality, I returned to that town, went to that jewelry store again, and asked that saleswoman to tell me everything she knew about this Angela girl. She looked at me with undisguised curiosity and then suddenly said that she was running out of food at home, as if hinting that she wouldn't share the information I needed just like that. So after she was done with work, we went to the supermarket, and while she was filling up the cart with goods I was going to pay for, she started talking. It turned out that a few years ago she got hired to work in that jewelry store to replace Angela. They worked together for about a week. That was enough for Angela to teach her everything. And then she quit, because she was pregnant. Since it was a really tiny place and quite a small community, she heard that Angela had left her baby boy with her parents and moved to the city to find a decent job. A year later, she appeared once again with one more baby and left him there also. And since then, nobody has seen her there again. After that, I didn't see any other option except to have a serious talk with Erica directly, even though I knew that it was supposed to be the hardest talk we were ever going to have. Already at home, I was sitting at the table, watching her cooking me something to eat. And I just rattled off everything about my trip. I mean, about both of them. She froze halfway to the chopping board with the loaf of bread in her hands and looked at me as if I had just betrayed her. I decisively stared back at her, although at the same time, I felt how fast my heart was beating. Then Erica proceeded to make me a sandwich and started talking quietly and sort of calm, which made me even more nervous, by the way. She got pregnant back in high school, and the parents of the father of the baby intentionally sent their son to study abroad in order not to ruin his life. She had always wanted to become an artist, so her parents let her move to the city to follow her dream. Then she met a guy who seemed to be nice, but as soon as he heard that she already had a baby, he dumped her. She was already pregnant with her second son. She wasn't ready to give up on her dream, so she gave her second to her parents also and got back to work. But since then, she only dated men who were ready to help her financially. No love, no other strings attached, so to speak. She changed her name because for her, it meant starting a new life, free from any further mistakes. I was sitting there, trying to digest all this information I had just heard. Erica finished making me a sandwich, put a plate in front of me, and said that it was the last time she was cooking for me. And then she went to our bedroom. I was sitting there in complete bewilderment. And then I heard that she had started packing her stuff. I didn't have a single thought in my head. I probably should have rushed to stop her, but for some strange reason, I just couldn't move. I don't know how much time passed when I saw her once again in the kitchen. She said that I was the one who she truly loved, but that she could no longer just live with somebody who had done such an insulting investigation behind her back. And she just was gone. The very next day, I understood that I wanted to be with her no matter what. And despite how many children she had, I threw away all the stuff I had in her second bedroom. I was ready to turn it into a room for her sons. I bought plenty of paint so she could decorate it however she wanted to. And when Erica came over to pick up the rest of her stuff, I asked her to close her eyes, took her to that room, got down on one knee, and opened a box with a ring that I'd just bought. I told her about how much I loved her and that I was ready to become a part of the family that she already had, meeting her children, and that I was ready to immediately have them come live with us. She opened her eyes, looked around, and then she said that she didn't want to live with her children. She was so calm when she was talking about that, but I felt as if I had just heard the worst thing in the world. She took my hands in hers and said that she has been trying to become an artist and that her paintings had finally found their buyers. So she didn't want to have any children around at all. I pushed her away and yelled at her that she was free to go and take all her belongings with her. I was devastated. I never talk to Erica again after that. And I'm not going to have any relationship in the future until I know my partner completely.